So let's assume I have three shards, and that's the example we're gonna build, by the way, guys, on the example part of it. And these three databases, let's say I have an input, right? Input one, right? So the idea of consistent hashing is you take in an input or a string or any user provided piece of data that you want to query on, and you want to know which database to query on. Essentially, that hash are going to give you back that instance somehow, right? So let's say hashing of input one will give you database 5432. You're going to go here. So every time you submit the input one string, it will always goes to this database, right? And if you submit input two, somehow this goes to 5433, right? And then if you submit input three, that might go to server 5434, right? Which is listening on port 5434. And that's kind of a consistent hashing. So as long as you give me always the same string, I'm gonna make sure, right, to always consistently hash that to the same server, to the same node, essentially. Okay, and you might get another, like, as again, if you submit input two again, you can always get the same output, right? All right, so you might just like how does actually this work? So one implementation would be just, hey, make this input into some sort of number, right? I don't know how you do this. Sum all these character ASCII codes, convert it into a binary, and then shove it back to a decimal, and then do a modulo, right, which is the remainder of 3, because I have 3 nodes, and then the input is like, I don't know, if it happened to be 10, right? Let's say you got 10 modulo 3 is, all right, divided by 3, that's 3, and then 9, and it's like the remainder of 1, right? So 1 is you add back 5432, and that equals to 5433, and that goes to this server. So that's how one implementation. I'm not saying that it is, right? And we're going to use one implementation in Node.js that does consistent hashing, essentially, right? They get an input, give me the port number back so I can connect to my database. And yeah, and that is called a hash ring as well, right? So this is like almost like a ring, and then Cassandra uses this all the time with the shards that they have, right? The consistent hashing ring, essentially. So every time you have an input, I know which database to hit.